What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Yesterday we released a video of reassembling old Christine here, trying to get this grader back on the ground and moving some dirt so we can haul it up to the National Pike Steam Show. Now, I was under a time crunch here, so things didn't get recorded quite to the standard that they normally do, so I hope you guys can bear with me and watch anyways. I think it still turned out pretty good here, and old Christine turned out quite well. I'm quite pleased with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We're picking up right where we left off yesterday because I had to split the video. It was just too darn long for my computer and my internet connection to handle. So you guys get back-to-back Diesel Creek videos in 2 days. So hope that works out good for your holiday weekend. Oh, and I almost forgot, if you're just jumping in and joining us now and you have not seen part 1 to this video, there's a link in the description down below. Please go down there and check that out first so you can see how we got to where we are. And other than that, I'll see you at the end of the video. Not much to record about. It's pretty tedious work, but I've been just finishing up the electrical work here. I cut a lot of the old crap out of it. There was switches and all kind of stuff here for lights and blower motors that aren't there anymore. We have a temp gauge, amp meter, and an oil pressure gauge, as well as an hour meter. To run power to the ignition, I did throw a relay in over here. I don't know that it was necessary, but I replace all my ignition switches in my equipment with Cat equipment switches. Anytime I do an electrical overhaul on a piece of equipment like this, I usually put a Cat ignition switch in, and these ones are just cheapos off of Amazon because Cat wants like $200 for one. So these are like $14, and I'm afraid to run that much voltage through the switch. It should handle it, but just to err on the side of caution and not burn up the switch, through the relay in there. But we should be ready to go ahead and install this thing. Alright, so the heaviest wire here is the power feed for everything, and all I'm going to do to pull the power is put an eye on the end of this thing and stick it on one of these terminal bolts here. The rest of these wires are, one's a hot for the coil, one is a starter solenoid, one's the water pump, one's the water temp, and the other one's oil pressure. So let's get these connected. So as I'm recording this, I don't remember if I showed it or not, but when I was taking the old terminals off of this starter relay, well, not this particular one, I broke the old one. I snapped that stud up there. So got a new one, not a big deal. But when I bought this one, I had the option to have this little button right here, which bypasses the key switch if you need to. That is fantastic for somebody like me that likes to come back here and tweak on the carburetor or something. You don't have to keep running back and hitting the starter switch every time. Just put the key in the on position and hit that button, and it's going to go. I think everything should be built like that. All right, with that oil pressure switch hooked up, I do believe that we are done here. Well, just like that, I think we are done. Got all the sensors hooked up. I hooked up the wires to the coil and down to the distributor and all that. So the wiring is done for now. I do plan on coming back in. And adding in the lights and everything. Right now I'm just trying to streamline and expedite this process so that I can get this machine up to the steam show and see you guys. But we're pretty much on to the hydraulic phase here. You guys remember there is a pile of hydraulic lines that run from all these spool valves out the boom here and down to the blade controls and everything else. So all the original ones were quite rusty and leaking, and it was just a mess. Pretty much after I got this thing home, every time I'd run a function, it would like blow another little pinhole in a line, and it would just start leaking a little bit. So that was a disaster. We can't reuse any of those. So I went and picked up some new hydraulic line stock, and I'm going to give it a go at making my own hydraulic lines here. I'm sure that this is going to be a catastrophe, but hopefully we can make something salvageable out of all this. It was like $800, so I would have really hated to see the bill if I paid somebody to bend them up and everything too. So I bought enough stock that we should have some extra, even if I do manage to screw something up here, which won't be shocking at all. And then the ferrules and the nuts, got an exact number of those, so don't screw up. So this is my pile of hydraulic lines here. Most of them aren't too crazy. They're fairly simple. This one's got like a 22.5 at one end and two 90s at that end. So something like that shouldn't be too hard to replicate. I've never done this before. I am confident that I can easily screw this up, but they don't look super complicated, so I'm hoping for the best here. Now, what we're using for tools, I bought a bender off of Amazon here, and of course I went with the Chinesium one because I don't think it's something I'm going to use too often. But flare tool, I have this awesome rigid flare tool, but it is a 45 degree. I did order the proper 37 degree cone for it, but it won't be here in time. I have a smaller 37 degree, and it's capable of doing 1/2 inch steel. Problem is, there's these little shim paws here, and what you do is you adjust the tool, and that shim determines the depth at which your tube protrudes through the bend dies here, or the clamping dies. Now, of course, I have one shim on here, but it's not the one I need. I need the one that's on this side, or supposed to be on this side, that's broken off. So I don't know what proper depth to shim that to. So I made this flare with a 45, and you can see the proper JIC. It does fit in there, and it looks okay. However, I'm not sold on the whole concept yet. I'm gonna give it a go and maybe cut this off and just try a few experimental runs with this thing, trying to find the proper protrusion to get the proper flare. So one thing we do have going for us is that this grader is a low pressure system. That means we're not going to be dealing with high pressure on these fittings that could potentially blow them out if they're not quite perfect. Low pressure should mean less chance of us to screw up. There we go. I also didn't cut this end with a tubing cutter when I made that 45 degree bevel that was on there. This flare was made just out of the factory end of the tubing, which I don't even think was quite perfectly square, so this should be better. This is a deburring tool. This basically just breaks the inner edge there after we cut it. And with that done, should be ready to make a flare. Now of course, before you make a flare, you want to be sure you put your nut on there and your ferrule in the correct orientation. Otherwise, yeah, you'll screw up big time. So I'm kind of setting this thing up and then gonna backtrack with it basically. That right there is this tool completely bottomed out. So I'm thinking back it off 2 to 3 turns. And there's 2. Just jam this thing up onto the mandrel basically. Some of you guys that are in this line of work or know anything about this are probably laughing at me right now, but I really couldn't find a whole lot of useful information online in my searching here. So basically what I'm going to try to do now is I'm just going to try to protrude the pipe out of the clamp about the same distance as this flare is tall on a JIC plug here. Just eyeballing it. Looks like we're about there. Clamp this thing down and give it a go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this tool's gonna work for us. See, this thing's supposed to kind of work like a cam clutch right here, but that pin is supposed to engage in that slot, and I feel like this tool's just worn out to the point where you can't get enough pressure to do anything. As soon as it's contacting the tubing, it's just camming out, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it work. That other bender out of commission. I guess it's batter up for the old rigid here. All right, so we got her clamped on there. Now there's 2 functions to these benders like this. So this one has a feed screw and then an ironing setting. And basically when you're ironing it, you're just spinning the mandrel of the bender around onto the surface, which kind of smooths it out and rolls the edge down and makes it smoother. So we're in ironing mode right now, and we're just basically tracing it out. It's kind of like rolling it like a rolling pin almost. I'm learning all about this stuff as we go here, so if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. Not too bad, huh? You know what? That actually looks pretty good. I don't know. I think I like it. And like I said, the savior in this is that it is a low pressure system. So I don't think we're going to have any problems with it. I probably wouldn't try this with the improper flare tool if I didn't have a few buddies that I also talked to, and they said they've done this with no problems at all. So that makes me feel a lot better about it. I guess now I need to learn how to bend tubing. So for our first pipe here, we really only need a little over 39 inches, but I'm gonna go ahead and give myself some leeway here and cut this thing off at 41, let's say 42, just to be extra sure. When I measured all these pipes to order the tubing, I rounded up quite substantially, so I should have plenty to work with here. As I knew there would be a bit of a learning curve, I thought it was smart to order extra. Alright, well here's the piece of tubing before I ruin it. So something to keep in mind here is that the bender that they used on the factory tubing, it was capable of making a tighter bend than this bender is capable of. So we're going to do the best we can with what we got. I put a mark right there for the beginning of the bend. I think that's the center of the bend. Basically I'm just going to bend it a little bit and keep checking it until we get it right, because it's not quite any specific angle, or at least it doesn't look like it to me. And there's bends that are in multiple planes, so of the 3 bends in this tubing, you can see there 3 different planes. Can always bend a little bit more, but you can't unbend too easily, so just keep going nice and easy until it looks like we're there. Shouldn't have gone that last little bit. Dang it. So here's the results of our first bend. I've got a magnet holding the ends parallel to each other. So it looks good through here, of course. Our bends start in the same place, but because we have a larger bending mandrel than was used to build the original piping, we had some tubing differences here. So as you can see, we have a slight offset. I got the angle pretty close, and I could probably tweak that and get the angle to match perfectly, but we're about a ½ an inch longer on this bottom piece than we were on the original. So basically I just have to compensate for that now that I know what it is. It's just about a ½ an inch difference. So yeah, more to figure, more to calculate, but ½ inch offset it is. Man, this bending stuff, if you don't do it every day, or if you're like me and you've never done it, might be a bit tough to get the hang of. A lot of double checking going on here. A lot of it. Like I said, it's all a learning process. But you can't be afraid to just dive in and try something like this. Yeah, there we go, that's it. Look at that. I tell you what, it might not be 100% identical, but for my very first attempt at bending up a hydraulic line, I am pretty pleased with that. Oof. Old trial and error. Maybe I'm gonna try holding back the protrusion a little bit more on the next one, but overall, my first hydraulic line, I think it's a success. That was a long, hard 2 days worth of learning how to bend tubing. And I had a motivational coach show up right in the middle of the process.
You're complaining about it. It didn't take us long to get that one bent.
He showed up right here at the end like a blister to tell me I was doing it wrong.
Look at that, I've even got dirty.
Yeah, I think I've seen you do more work since you've been here than 5 years of watching your channel.
Is that supposed to be bent like that?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
You know where this goes? I'm ready to put it on.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and put these things on here. I am impressed with how they turned out, all things considered.
I'm pretty impressed with you.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and install these things. Had the whole gang show up to try to really kick it into the end zone for me.
Moral support, we forgot our tools.
Yeah, but it's coming along. I think all these hydraulic lines turned out really nice. I'm very pleased with all that. And for not knowing how to bend tubing, I'd say I did a pretty decent job.
I'll give you a B+.
I'll take that. All I think I have left, I think all I have left to do, we're gonna put the battery in down here, and then we gotta put some gasoline and some hydraulic oil, and I think old Christine's gonna be ready to try to come back to life.
Anything you want?
Well, we're gonna see if our fuel tank repair holds up. It's the first I've ever done anything to it. Dump all of it in there and then check it, right?
Well, it's better than what your helper was about to put in it.
No leaks in? Well, my wiring must be halfway decent. Nothing's arcing when I touch the terminals here.
Hey, we got that going for us, isn't we?
Yeah. Chris is a pro. He's filling in for me. You don't just fill it halfway up. If you're going to pump it out of the barrel, you fill the jug.
I see contaminants.
It'll filter out.
I'm sure. It's got a settling tank.
Ain't no filter on this machine.
I said it's got a settling tank.
I bought the house.
Settle out in the bottom.
Filter on it, but I couldn't find a place I was really happy with it. I have to put it like right here. And
What's that?
a filter.
Oh.
I bought a housing to put in here.
Looks like it holds what? About
Like 5 gallons.
5 gallons?
Yeah.
I know. I know what's wrong with it. I ain't got no oil in it.
It ain't got no gas in it.
Daily?
I don't use my tin very much.
About 7.5 gallons?
Yeah. Well, I think that just about does it. I think we're ready to see if this thing's gonna fire up. It didn't catch on fire when I put the battery in there, so that says something about my wiring. It's been about 1.5 years almost since this thing's been run, so hopefully it goes. All right, first attempt here. Contact. No, there's not. Second attempt here. We got no power.
Let me do that while you put the...
Oh, I can do it from right here.
Okay.
But the battery's off right now.
Why is the battery off, Matt?
Because it was smoking.
It's got bad habits.
Oh, Christine is still fighting here. Try to doll her up. She's still not wanting to cooperate.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she's gonna go now.
Just need a love
Little
tap.
tappy tap.
Little tappy tap. Just tap it in.
Contact. No, still not want to work from the key.
Bypass the key. Wait.
I'm glad I got this bypass solenoid. Contact. It never did crank real fast before. Good news, it still don't crank very fast. Come on, Christine.
She need a little
Sniffy sniff. We'll get there. Take it gentle with it.
we don't want to make her dependent just yet.
Contact. I think that starter's going to wind up getting rebuilt.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. so I'm going to say that we have a spark issue. Contact. Nothing.
Very, very little, and it's coming off the side. I think you do need to get cleaned.
I got one file. Well, I think Christine just wants her nails done before she'll go to the show. All right, give her one more go here. You can get a little sniff of ether just for extra encouragement. Contact. Dang it. Contact. One more chug. Contact. I knew that was going to happen.
Didn't cut the fuel on?
I tightened up this alternator yesterday. I put the pulley back on there. Apparently I didn't get tight enough because the fan behind the pulley is still spinning until just now. Something wrong.
Something wrong.
Hey, 742. Will it run this time? Contact. It's running. I need to do some fine tuning on the carburetor, it seems like, but we're going to test out all our hard drive. We're about to test out all of our hydraulic work here and see if these lines start leaking. Hopefully not. Bleed all the air out. It takes a little bit here. There we go. Oh, we got a squirter.
Just loose.
Loose. Good deal.
Good deal. Those didn't get tightened yesterday.
Well, the engine runs. The hydraulics pump. We tightened up the loose fitting. I think we should be ready to try and move this thing. Keep in mind, I've never been able to drive this thing correctly since I've owned it. I took it apart to fix the clutch way back in the beginning and never actually got to really run it. So, first go here. This is why. Contact. Well, the starter's not quite spinning it over fast enough, I don't think. I think it's also partially flooding out. I got the help. I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull start this thing. Alright, I don't know what's going on with my janky wiring, but apparently the relay ain't relaying, so. Might need to choke it now.
Oh, that's a good noise.
You just need to pull it out through the driveway.
I needed sunlight.
Got to connect the fuel pump, but it runs. Don't worry about that clanking noise, it's just an alternator. We don't need that thing.
We might as many times we've tried to start it. Might need to put that on the trickle charge, didn't
thanks to a little help from some friends, got the old girl going. It blades. I don't know how to blade, but it blades. I'll figure that out as I go here.
We're gonna go ahead and take it to the show before it breaks.
Yeah. So after we worked a couple kinks out of it, you might be able to hear there's a sound in the engine that doesn't sound real good, but it's just a pulley on an alternator that's broke. We won't worry about that too much. It can't hurt anything.
Minor details.
Minor details.
Minor.
It's a 6-foot restoration. Stand back, it won't pose you any harm. I don't know, I'm happy with it though. We'll see. We'll get it up to the show and play with it. Check it out, guys. Ooh, man, this has been a long time coming. It's not quite finished, but it feels really, really super close. We got this thing loaded up and we are headed to the Brownsville Steam Show, where I'm sure I'm gonna get to meet a lot of you guys. So I know I didn't really get to film the ending of this video the way I typically do. I had a lot of people here and we're really trying to hurry up and get this thing to where it's at so we can get it on a trailer and take it to the show. So yeah. ready to stretch your legs now. Old Christine's back. Well, here we are back at the farm. This is the next day after the steam show. The old Galion made it through. Christine got to take her first big bladefuls of dirt up there and get run by people that are a lot better on a blade than I am. But I'm learning. I did get to play around with it a bit, but to be honest, the steam show was such a whirlwind this go around that I didn't get the seat time on this or the cable shovel that I was planning on. But overall, I am very, very happy with the results of this machine. I really never set out to do the full restoration on it, as you guys know, but that being said, it still turned out pretty darn nice. There are a few things we need to attend to. There's an electrical gremlin somewhere, and I had to put a jumper wire onto the coil to the battery to get this thing to stay running. So I got to find that. And we also have a hydraulic leak up here on the number 3 spool valve here. I can't tell exactly where it's coming from. I think it's the lower line, but not positive. So I have to take that off and check out. I think it's the fittings going into the spool. If I recall right, the flare on the end of one of those was pretty chewed up. So they make these little thing called flarettes or something like that, and they're supposed to seal those up, or maybe I'll just be able to replace that fitting. Anyway, that's why the floor pan's covered in oil again. I think that was also a problem with the old lines as well, because I recall everything being drenched in oil just like it is right now, but I assumed that was from rusted out lines. We know the stainless steel lines aren't rusted out, so I'm pretty sure it's coming from that number 3 spool. Other things I'd like to fix before I say it's officially done. Down here on the mold board, these bolts that they have in here to hold the blade into the frame, they're not really the correct size. There's a lot of slop in there. You can see that one's sitting pretty crooked. So I'd like to get some better pins made up for that, and that'll keep the blade a lot tighter and keep it from flopping around. The mold board itself, I think we've talked about in videos past, but you can see this is the current bottom of the mold board, and there's the bolt holes. So they actually wore the cutting edge down into the mold board quite a bit, and it's just barely hanging on there. So to combat the worn mold board, they actually welded the cutting edge on, so it's fine for right now. It's got plenty of life left in the cutting edge for what I do, but if the time ever comes that we wear it down that far, we're gonna have to take the blade off and send it to a shop and have it straightened out on a mill and the mold board repaired if I can't find another one, and then bolt a new cutting edge onto that. Of course, you know, we have to put the glass back in the cab yet. I have not found the window molding trim to hold the glass in, but that's on the list. The seat back is not done yet. I'm gonna send this seat to an upholstery shop. This is the quick little cover job Miss Eva did for me so we could have something to sit on. But I'm gonna send that to a real upholstery shop and hopefully they can make that look pretty darn nice for us. I'm sure they can. The pedals down here, I grabbed some springs from the hardware store. They work, but you can see they're not strong enough. They don't return the pedals all the way, so I gotta get some heavier springs for that. I don't know what that grease is coming from, but there's grease slung on it from somewhere, perhaps. Oh, yeah, okay, it's probably slinging off this brake shaft. It's probably slinging off this brake drum. The seal behind this drum is clearly compromised, and it just leaks oil all over the brake drum. The brakes still work amazingly, but if I reseal that and clean up that brake drum and brake band and everything, I'm sure it'll work quite a bit better. So that's on the list as well. So stupid me, about 20 minutes into the steam show, I forgot to disconnect the jumper wire I said that I put on this coil. And I left the key on, basically, and we overcooked our coil here. It boiled over, blew the top out of it, dumped oil everywhere. And amazingly, that coil still works though. We've come a long way with old Christine here, but she's still not quite done. But what is done, really? I mean, is a project ever really done? So there'll be probably another video or two coming in the future of this thing. Plus, I'm sure you'll get to see me using it as time goes on. We'll be fixing things and grading things around here. I think this machine's going to be super, super handy for doing some drainage work around here because my place is very flat. And it's easy to make a nice, slow, gentle pitch with a grader. I mean, I don't have much experience doing it, but from the little bit I've run it, I've seen that it's very easy to make nice, smooth, gentle cuts. Anyways, guys, if you like the grader series and you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Let me know that this is something you guys want to see. And if you haven't already, be sure you're going back and watching all the videos on this thing from the very beginning when we drug it out of the tree row. And if you're not already subscribed and you like this kind of content, I do stuff like this all the time. So if you're not already, hit that button down below so you don't miss the next video. But that's all I've got for now. I'm gonna go blade something.